Hello, hello. I've got pretty much the entire G series brushes here with me today. I'm going to be going through them in order of function and shape. So I'm going to start with the base brushes, and then I'm going to do the paddle face brushes, the round face brushes, the round cheek brushes, the paddle cheek brushes, so on and so forth until we get through them all. So starting with arguably my favorite category of brushes, we have the base brushes. So the G series consists of these round brushes that are composed of synthetic as well as natural hair fiber. So the synthetic is nylon and the natural hair is goat. You're not really supposed to feel the goat because the synthetic hair extends above the goat hair. If you press really hard, you will feel the goat hair, but that's about it. So the difference between these two brushes, they're the same size here, is one of them has longer synthetic bristles. This is a 4mm clearance difference, and this is a 2mm difference. The 4mm difference will give you a little bit of a sheer finish and more transparent look. So if you like the glass skin look, the 4mm is better for that. If you like a more satiny matte finish, the 2mm is better for that. So they have basically this 2 and 4mm difference in 3 sizes. Here, here, and here. So large, medium, and small. So large, medium, small. So this is large. It's going to obviously be the fastest. You won't really be able to quite get in here into these little corners as well. But with the medium size, you definitely can. This is what I have. And then the small size is starting to get down to detail. So this will be for contouring and highlighting around the face. Well, the medium size will truly be your jack of all trades. You can do foundation with it, albeit it takes longer than with the big brush. Apply blush with it, highlight, contour. So medium is probably the best size. So the names of the brushes, the large one with the 4mm clearance is the G5556. The one with the large with the 2mm clearance is the 5557. The medium with the 4mm clearance is the 5554. And the medium with the 2mm clearance is the 5555. I have the 2mm clearance because my skin's not good enough for that glass finish you get with the 4mm clearance. So yeah. And the small size in the 4mm clearance is the 5552. And the 2mm clearance is the 5553. So that's our round base brushes done. Let's move on to, come here, the paddle foundation base brushes. So I'm not quite sure what the synthetic is. They have several different types of synthetics. This might be Taklon. But anyways, this is the G519. So this is kind of your most classic foundation brush before round ones got popular. It's a thick paddle that tapers to a tip. And this is great if you're using foundation that you really need to spread out all over the place before you take another brush to blend it out. That's how I recommend doing foundation anyways. This isn't really designed to do your entire foundation. You do need another brush to blend it out because you are going to get a little bit of a harsh edge or line wherever you stop your brush stroke because it's not very fluffy, it's not very tapered. So this one is good for fitting anywhere. And it's also capable of, if you're using cream products, to kind of sculpt out your face first as an underlayer and then go over with foundation to like really change up a face. This is what this brush is good for. It's pretty big compared to the next size down. The next size down is a little bit more of a detailed brush. So this would be more of an under eye brush for me. And this would be the true face foundation brush out of all the synthetic paddles. And then this one, compared to this one, same shape. This is the 517. The difference is in the thickness. This one's going to be much more flexible as a result of not having so much bulk in the hair. So this one feels softer. You could use this for padding on, but you'll get a pretty thick layer of powder on there. So unless you're baking, not a great idea, and even then you'd still need another brush to flick it off. So the more sort of detail-oriented face brushes go, we have the 517 and the, oh, this is the J4005. I guess you're getting a comparison. I personally prefer the 405 better because that angle gives you a little bit more precision. So that edge, if my camera decides to focus, can be used to clean up, clean up, clean up. And I just think that if you're going to get one of these sort of synthetic paddle brushes, I would get the 4005. I just gravitated and grabbed it, even though it's not in the G series. But if you want a tongue-shaped brush, this one, and the next few sizes down. So we have this is the 542, and then you can see this is either a very large eye base brush or a large concealer brush around the face. And then this is a more reasonable size brush. This is the 540. Again, large eye brush for putting down, say, a MAC paint pot or whatever your eye primer is. And because of that thin edge, again, you can really go in there, clean up. And then because of that flat surface, go around the face. And then because that edge is so razor thin and it has good resistance from all the other hairs buffering it, you could use this to draw on eyeliner. Same thing with this brush as with this brush. It's going to, the longer the hairs, the softer it's going to feel. So if you want to get like a softer finish with your spot concealing, I would pick this longer one. This is the 538, and then you kind of just lick it on and tap it on, and because of that flexibility and spread, you'll kind of get more blended edges right away with your concealer. This one I probably would not use for lip. It's a little too big and a little not controllable enough to use for doing lip or eyeliner, like I say with the bigger one, because the bigger one has all this hair supporting these longest hairs. This one has less support. So good for eyeliner, surprisingly the bigger one, not so great for eyeliner, the smaller one. And then these are some round brushes that are kind of multi-purpose. So if I just show them to you, they look like a target. But this is the large size of this round pointy shape. This is the G5532. And this is my favorite one out of all three because this is the most versatile. You can use it for lip, and then because you have that hair buffering the tip, you could use it for eyeliner. And it's, of course, good for doing here. It is a little sharp feeling because it is on a firm side. You can see how quickly it springs back. So I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. And oh yeah, it's good for spot concealing too, like really pinpoint concealing. But unless I'm doing like photography work, this is good enough. These are for if I really want to camouflage something. And then this is the 5531. It's the medium size. Basically everything about the big size except eyeliner. This one wouldn't do eyeliner so well because you don't have enough hairs on the side to buffer the longest hairs. And then this one is the 5530, smallest, finest tip. If you want to draw on freckles, this is the brush you do it with. And also this one, because it is already thin, for eyeliner, but you're going to get a very thick, almost retro looking cat eye with this. And I wouldn't use this for lipstick because there's not much volume to it, so it won't hold onto product very well and distribute it nicely. So my favorite is still the big brush. So that's the base brushes done. Moving on to the powder brushes. So I'm going to start with sort of like the straight across powder brushes and then do the angled powder brushes. So most of these are the salt and pepper hairs. You can see some of them are a little more brown and then some of them are a little more blacky gray. The brown ones are a mixture of goat and horse, and the blacky grayish ones are the squirrel and the goat mix. So we have 4 what I would consider classic paddles. 3 of them have this diamond taper to them. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, that diamond taper. And one of them is pretty much flat across like a dome. There's only one of these, surprisingly. This is the G6413. Yeah, G6413. And this one is probably the most luxurious feeling of them all because it's so thick and fluffy and there's just so much to it. This is pretty much pure luxury. It's quite expensive at $150, but it feels great. This would be my choice for a bronzer brush out of the flat paddle brushes. There's a round one I like more for bronzer, but I'll get to that eventually. Great brush, lots of surface area, and feels great. This is Squirrel Goat. Moving on to the diamond taper ones. Oh, if you're baking, you want a big fat brush like this to really knock it off and make sure you're not left with too much cakiness. So between the G501 and the 502, they don't look that different. Of course they don't look that different. The camera won't focus. Okay. They don't look that different. The difference is in the build and how thick they are. This is me trying to squeeze this one. This is me trying to squeeze this one. You can see one of them is a lot more firm than the other. The 501 is the firmer one. It has more hair packed in, again, squirrel and goat. And you can see how flexible this one is, the 502 is, compared to the 501. The 501 is if you want a thick, firm, plush brush, but you want a little bit more versatility with it. Because of this cut, you can use this for powder, bronzer, blush, and contour, but it's only if you're lightly sculpting and not really chiseling out your look. So this is the most versatile out of the bunch. I just love this one, the 6413 for the pure luxury, but the best pick would probably be the 501. But I know not everybody likes the really thick brushes for face. They prefer something more airy, more light, more flexible, and the 502 will be your brush of choice. Still has that diamond taper, so you can have the versatility out of it, and it's got a little bit more spread to it. This is the 506. This is a horse goat blend, and this is a size difference compared to the 502 and the 501. So this is more of a large cheek brush, and this one is the firmest of them all in comparison to this and this because of that horse blending, but it is a little bit less dense than the others, so you don't have like a massive mass of hair on your face. This one is pretty soft. I've talked before about how soft the Hakuhodo horse is. Just doesn't have that like poof sponge feeling of squirrel plus goat. This is very much a utility brush. So if you want to like buff out areas of the face, this is it. Blush, highlight, contour. Good brush to have. It's not luxury, but it is a workhorse. Next up are the angled brushes. There are 3 of them. So we have on top we have the 5544, and then we have the 5542. 5544, 5542. So here they are. See if I can get that to focus. And the difference is pretty much in the spread. And in general, the Hakuhodo brushes, the bigger the number, the smaller the brush, and that applies here as well. So you can see they're pretty close. I really don't see there's big of enough difference between the 5544 and the 5542 to spend the extra $20 on the 5542. So I would recommend the 5544 if you want an angled brush. Yes, it is more flexible and it's less dense than the 5542, but it's only about a 15% difference. It's not huge. So I just feel like this one is the better pick. That's pretty much all I have to say. Of course, you can use it for bronzer, powder, blush. Can't really use it for highlight, but you can definitely use it for sculpting out the face. Won't fit on the nose. That's the one thing. So because you have that domed tip rather than a more shaped tapered tip. This one, on the other hand, the little one, the 511, is great for all the detail work around your face. Really lovely brush. I highly recommend this to anybody looking for an angled cheek brush. And of course, for powder. And this is good for setting under the eyes and then sweep and blending. So those were the sort of thick paddles and the angled paddles. And now we're moving on to the thin paddles. So with these thin paddles, let me pull one to show you the difference. This is a thin paddle, has this tip, versus this is one of the thick paddles, which also has the pulled taper tip. And of course, the thin paddles are going to feel more flexible and softer, even though they're made of the same material. So let's start with the big ones. Kind of loosely arranging them in order of size here. Here we go. 2 of them are goat. 1 of them is horse. Okay, goat, horse and goat, goat, horse. Now that we've got that squared away, the biggest of the bunch is the G5535. This will be your finishing brush because it's. Did you see how much spread there is on that? So it's going to fold around your face without moving anything underneath unless you like really mash it and put it in. You can do blush as well, and that's about it. This is a loose face brush, so if you have oily skin and you prefer not to get a squirrel brush, you prefer to say not get one of these brushes, the goat and squirrel brushes, to do your finishing, the 5535 is a good option for that. Let's see. And now we have the 508. So a little bit of a size difference. The 508 is firmer yet, more resilient because of that horse mixed in. But it still feels really, really soft. So again, powder, blush, and then a little bit of sculpting because this one is smaller in size and you can get a little bit more control out of it. From here on out, pretty much assume everything can be used for powder, blush, and contour. It's just a matter of which size and material you prefer. So quite a big spread, not as dramatic. And then we have the 5536. This is again made of goat. And then this is the size difference. It's a little bit smaller. Not terribly much so. And then this is what you get out of it. And then we have the 5501. This is the horse. This will be your strongest blender, and you don't want to use this one as a finishing brush because it will move stuff underneath. Great news about horses, it keeps that really nice tip, so this one can be used pretty precisely. And then we have what I could start considering cheek brush size. This is the 5545, goat and squirrel. So then this is kind of your more classic blush brush size, albeit it's a little bit on the longer side. And then you can get that fine tip in there, and there, and then in here. And it's just a really lovely brush. Probably my favorite of the cheek brushes in this batch that I'm showing you. This is, 5545. Now, we've got the little tongue brushes. So 2 of these are squirrel, and then the one is goat and horse. So starting with these, all similar sized, you can see that the goat and the horse hold that pointed shape the best, while the squirrel kind of turns into a little bit more of a dome, but they're pretty much shaped the same way. It's just how they bloom out. That's different. So from most firm to least firm, you have the horse, which is 5502, the goat, which is 5525, and then the squirrel, which is 5547. And then again, these are suitable as under eye powdering brushes, highlight brushes, blush brushes. I wouldn't use these so much for contour because they can go on a little bit harsh. If you're going to do contour, I might not pick the 5547 unless you're really good about blending things out. If you want things to be blended out quickly, I would go for the goat or the horse. The goat is the 5525 and the horse is the 5502. So to compare to the other sort of tongue one, the 5547 is shorter and squatter than the 5546. So this one is going to be even more sheer of an application. You can see that spread versus that spread. And then this one is going to feel softer because it's going to feel wispier and it's going to just blend out more. So this one would be good for all of the functions as well as for finishing blending. So if you have, like, say, a little bit too much definition between your contour and your blush, you would take a brush like this and kind of blend it out, or maybe take a little bit of like clear powder and then pat it over blush you overdid to tone it down. This one, because it is smaller and thicker and more plush feeling, might over apply powder a little bit. So the sheer brushes do have their time and place. That's the powder brushes, flat brushes done. Let's do these flat brushes. So we've got two angled ones and then a flat one. Let's do the weird flat one first. This is the 5529. I believe this is straight horse, and oh my gosh, it's so soft. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was dyed goat. But this one is for when you're really going artistic and you want to chisel out. It's got a flat top like this. Then this is really when you sculpt out the face. So not a super versatile brush everybody's going to love, but if you're a professional artist and you do a lot of more specialized makeup, this might be one to consider. And then these brushes. This is a goat horse mix. I can't tell if you know if it's a little brown or not, but it's goat horse. This is 503, and then this is straight horse at 504. So the difference is in the sizing. This one feels a little bit more flexible than the big one because the big one, there's just so much hair in there buffering it. And this is pretty much a one and done brush. What you put on a little bit of contour, swipe it, and then blend it up and you're done. This one I feel like will be the more useful one for more people because it's more gentle and a little bit more controllable in terms of pigment laydown. But this one feels like a beast. This one could probably do powder foundation. The 503 could probably do powder foundation. If anyone has this, try it and report back to me. I'm curious to hear. Okay. I'll put those over there. And then we have these sort of eye/face brushes. These are the flat brushes. And then, actually, I'm going to pull something from over here. So, surprisingly, there is only one non-horse flat eye blending brush in the whole G series, and that is the G5523. So, the more famous one, the J5523, is touted as a dupe for the MAC 217. I personally prefer the 5523 because it blooms out less and it keeps a nice, more controlled shape. And this is like your typical medium-sized blending brush that can apply lid shade, crease shade, blend, outer corner. This is probably a must-have. No, this is not probably. This is a must-have from the G series of 5523. See here? And then moving on to the other flat paddle brushes. You have one that's like these, the short stout one. This is the 5508, and this is the 5509. This is really for laying down base quickly or for cleaning up under the eye, like so. And I wouldn't say these are super necessary to have for most people, but if you're like really painting on stuff, then because they're horse, they'll be able to handle that. I still prefer the big one to the small one because the small one almost feels a little too stiff and too firm. The big one has a little bit more flexibility to the tip. And then we have these guys, big, medium, small. This is the 5503. This is the 5504. And this is the 5505. The 5505 is definitely the most practical size because you can use this one for eyeshadow. And thin blade, you can kind of get it under here to your outer edge to your lower lash line. So 5505 would be my pick out of these guys. These again are more eye base brushes or under eye concealer brushes. The 5503 and the 5504 will nicely put down product here, and then because of that tapered round shape, you will be able to lick out your foundation or concealer and then hide your dark circles pretty well because the horse will apply the stuff down pretty opaquely. So if this is the medium size of the eye brushes, of the paddle eye brushes, this is the small size. This is the 5513. This is also horse, but it's undyed horse. So this is your detail brush for here, here, if you really want to do here, and you can also use this for pinpoint concealing. So you just pat on a little bit of concealer and then you just go around until the edges get blended out. This one is a liner brush. This is the 5512 and it is absolutely tiny. So this is for if you're really smudging things in or putting stuff up into your lash line. So that's all the paddle brushes done. Let's move on to the round brushes. So there's 4 what I would consider main face brushes in the round shapes. So one of them's round angled and the rest of them are kind of just bigger. This is a G510. This is a mixture of goat and horse. So this is got a pretty significant spread to this. I'll pull some brushes to do comparisons to these later, like the 104 to compare after I'm done with the G series. So again, finishing, powder, bronzer, this is what you're going to be using this brush for. Even though it is horse, I do believe it has enough flexibility in it that you shouldn't have too much problem with moving your base around. Pretty loose in comparison to the upcoming brushes. So this is the 6403. This is thicker and then it's got less spread and more firmness to it. So if the G501 and the, where are you? The G501 and the 6413 are the biggest and most plushiest of the paddles. This is the most plush of the round brushes. And still, it does feel less plush than the paddle ones because there's just more movement to it overall because it's not crimped in at the ferrule. So you can either have the 6403 or you can go for the 6423. What's the difference? Well, there's kind of pretty much the same in size down here, but because of this angle, you will be getting a bigger spread with the angled brush. And I actually do prefer the angled brush more. It just works better for fitting on your face because your face is not one flat plane. It's a bunch of planes and triangles glued together. So I just prefer the angled round brush more. It just folds around better. While this one, you kind of have to push it before it folds. This one, you just kind of use a little bit of pressure and it folds around your face because the long bristles fold. And then this is the G5430. This is bordering between a face brush and a cheek brush. It's a very large blush brush if you want it. Otherwise, it's a good finishing brush. So you use it to finish off blending. Even though it is on the thicker side, it does have quite a bit of spread, surprisingly. So I'm pressing with about the same amount of pressure. The density is less in the 6430. This one just feels good on the skin. So if you want a small round face brush, definitely go for this one. And I think this size is pretty much the most that anybody really needs for a face brush. these are just excessive. So out of this group, my favorite is still the 6423. Second favorite is the 6430. Okay, those brushes aside, we have these brushes. So we're starting to get into the cheek brushes. This one, the G103, is the G version, the Squirrel plus Goat version of the 103 that you might more commonly know from the B series or the J series. So this one has a very nice point where you can get in and really powder around the eyes and also do blush, highlight. Doesn't quite work so well for contour, and I think it's because of the round shape. You can't really go like this with contour. You really have to go this way, and I prefer a brush where you can go both linearly and in a little bit of a circular motion. Because of this point, it doesn't work so well in the circular motion. It just works better going like this with it. And then the tip isn't quite as thin as I would like for highlighting my nose, but it could work. I wouldn't push it. It's mostly just a powder brush and a blush brush for me, and sculpting for contour if I go like that. I think I have used my J103 for contour before in a video, but that's because the J103 fluffs up more. The other candle-shaped brushes we have, to show you large, medium, small, here we go again. This one is less of a candle shape. This is the 6530. And then if you prefer a pointed round blush brush, this would be it. The one smaller doesn't work so well as a blush brush because it is, in my opinion, too small. So the 6530 is Squirrel Goat, and this will be your ideal candle round shape blush brush. Of course, contour, because that tip isn't quite shaped enough, highlight if you wanted to, but not really. And then the 6540 will be your actual highlight brush out of the Goat and Squirrel, the salt and pepper. Then we have a size down. This is the G5521. This is straight Squirrel, and oh my gosh, it is so soft. Just look at that. So the difference in the spread, they pretty much spread to the same size because this one's just flexible and this one is a little bit more firm. But so again, this one is sort of your highlight brush, shading brush. This one can do here and here, but you'll have to be pretty precise about it. And then what this brush really shines at is under eye powdering. Moving on to the round brushes that are cheek, but short and squat. So we have the cheek long and the cheek shorts. So this one is the G528. This is some weird mix. I can't remember at the moment. It might be horse and synthetic or goat and synthetic, but it's not straight horse like it looks like. It's something and synthetic, but it's super soft. I'm really surprised. And then this is going to be a classic contour brush, or in the Kokutan series, they have this as a large eyeshadow brush C. You're meant to go and do your eyeshadow like this with it. No, for me, it's definitely a contour brush or a very small blush brush or a highlight brush. And it's very springy. It's like very springy, very soft. This is a very interesting combination for a brush, the 528. Next, we have the 5518. I think I've definitely done a video on this where I use it for blush. You can definitely use it for highlight, contour. It's in my Hakuhodo top 10 videos. This is Kazan Squirrel. And Hakuhodo, up until Chikuhodo released their KZ series recently. This was my Kazan Red Squirrel brush of choice, and it's just great. It's small, but it's really soft and surprisingly dense. And it's just so good at blush. A step up from that in size is the G6440. So this is a size difference. And then as you can see, this one will apply your blush faster. It's not as soft, of course, as the Kazan Squirrel, but it's still supremely soft. Like the Goat and Squirrel stuff is no joke. And then, so this is this blush brush. The difference between this one and the 6440 and the 6431 is this one's much denser. This one is a, oh shoot, I messed up. I put on too much blush or too much contour brush. Then you take this one and you work it in and you erase your mistake. That's what this brush is for. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would use it for blush unless it was like a really sheer blush and I was trying to get the color really strongly in. Kind of like the J210. I'm not really sure what to use this brush for, but it's nice feeling. Okay, moving on to the round eye brushes. We got some long blenders and then we get into the more squat shapes. So I've kind of split the long blenders into two categories. So we have the ones that I considered pointed and the ones that are domed. Pointed, domed, pointed, domed. So let's start with the pointed ones. Actually, no, let's start with the domed ones because I feel like these are the most versatile ones. So these are the this is the 5516. Pretty big brush once you get down to it. I'm only using a little bit of pressure and see how much that spreads. If your eyelids have their own zip code, this is your blending brush. This is the G5533. Again, this is a little too big for my eyes because of that sort of more flat, not flattened, that less tapered pointed dome shape. So this, again, if you have large eyelids, this will be great for you. Like I'm barely pressing and that's the spread on the brush. I think most of us mortals will like the 5529 best because you get this little blending brush here and you get a lot of control with it. The G55, no, is it G, the B? The J5529 is in Goat. That one fluffs up more. I prefer the G5529 because you get more control and it's super soft. Can't really use it for smudging eyeshadow, but you can use it if you're doing like a smoky eye and you want to cover the pencil or gel liner that you use with black shadow to soften it. Great brush for that. Moving on to the tapered blending brushes, these are the ones I like better. So the 5522, I love the J5522 as a face highlight and contour brush because the J one is made of completely Goat and it fluffs up more. Not so with the 5522, you get more of a fine point for it. So this one, the G5522 compared to the J5522 is more of a better eye blending brush and it just feels really great. So I would get both, the J5522 for face work and the G5522 for eye work. This is the G5517. So if you want a stronger blender and you don't need to pay the premium for a softer brush because you don't have eye sensitivity, the horse one, I keep saying that Hakuhodo horse is supremely soft. This is a great choice as well. Doesn't feel as luxurious, but if you're saving $10, that's up to you to decide. And also the 5517 is a smaller and more controllable size. So I would consider this medium large. This is solidly in the medium territory. Next we have the 5526 and the 5534. So the 5526, a tapered horse brush, this one you can really get in there. Inner corners, outer corners, draw a crease in for a cut crease. This is horse, but it's pretty soft. If I poke at my eyes with my Hakuhodo horse brushes, I once in a while feel a hair or two. If you're super sensitive, again, avoid. If you're super sensitive, go for the 5534. This is Squirrel, and it is small again and soft. It doesn't quite have as defined as a tip. Let me show you the difference between the 5534 and the 5529. So one has more of a tip on it, the other does not. But again, once it comes down to the size, if I really want a small brush with a tip, I would go for a pencil brush instead. So the 5529 would be my pick over the 5534. You really don't need this extra taper here. Just grab a pencil brush or a smaller eye brush and call it a day. This is the 513 made of the now endangered Canadian squirrel. I'm just saying it's endangered. I don't know if it is or not, but there's fewer and fewer brushes made of this. It's a pretty massive eye brush, and you can definitely use it for face highlight. It's glorious for face highlight. But not going to be for everybody, but doe foot brushes are surprisingly versatile. I used one today to do my eye makeup, if you go check out my Instagram for it. But even though this seems like a really big, scary brush, it's a really great brush to do one and done eyeshadow if you're only using 2, maybe 3 colors. So don't be intimidated by how big this brush is. This is a rounded doe foot brush. So compared to the flat top doe foot brush, this is a 6451. This will give you a little bit more of a stronger application because it is more dense. So let me press that. You can see how much it goes over versus this one. It doesn't go over as much. This will be great for blending out crease work as well. So if you have too harsh of a line here, you take this one and you erase it, and then everything's good again. The synthetic version of this in the eye series, I absolutely love using for under eye concealer. I wouldn't use this one with under eye concealer because it's Squirrel Goat. So there we go with that one. Another one of my favorite brushes that was in my Hakuhodo top 10 video. This is the 5524. Again, a large eye brush that most people would probably be intimidated by, but that large area gives you places to put down a base color. And then if you use only a portion of the tip, like from here on out, not the whole brush, just here on out, you can do lid color. And the way I like using it is rolling it around in a mid-tone color, dipping the tip in a dark color, and just drawing it back and forth across my eyes, and it automatically just shades out my orbital socket, and the dark color lays down or defines the crease. So large eye brush, again made of Kazan squirrel, like the cheek brush I showed here, which is, in my opinion, softer than blue squirrel. But because that's a large brush, I wouldn't say it's a must-have for everybody. What I would say is a must-have for everybody is the G5528. This is sort of like a medium, small-sized brush that you can use for really detailed blending work. It is a little bit on the firm side for squirrel. So you, if you're looking for a firm brush but you have sensitive eyes, this is a great one. Just really good for blending and smudging eyeshadow around all over the place. Slightly smaller. Oh wait, no, that's the same brush. How did I manage to pull 2 of those? Oh, this is actually a great demo on the handmade nature of brushes. You can see how one of these 5528s has a more defined tip than the other. One of them's more rounded in a bullet shape. I mean, one of them's more pointed like a bullet shape. The other one's more rounded like a dome. So they're handmade. You're going to get some variants. I'm sorry. Let's put that back there. And now we've got the pencil brushes. So this is the G554A. I believe this is Blue Squirrel and Horse Mix, one of my favorite ones. Again, if you're looking for a small brush, but with firmness and softness, this is a good one to consider. I don't feel the horse in it. Unless you're very, very sensitive, you probably won't either. But what that horse does is it gives it nice spring, and then it's just really good. And then these are undyed horse brushes. The small one is the 5515 and the larger one is the 5514. My preference is for the 5514 because if you use it with a lot of pressure, you get more spread and you get a very thick line. But if you're very light and gentle with it, you get a thin line, which is what this brush does. So if you just get the larger brush and you put a little bit more fine motor control into how you apply your makeup, you really don't need the 5515. Just get the 5514 and call it a day. So that was the round eye brushes. I have these sort of like cable brushes here to go, and then these round fluffy things. Not sure what to call them. we got the super huge eyebrow brushes. I've actually never used any of these. The G536 is made of hog, and I'm wondering, when would you use this brush? Oh, I know when I would use it, when I'm using on someone I dislike and I want to hurt them. Like, this brush is seriously, seriously stiff. Can you hear this? Yeah, it's pretty extreme. This is Water Badger. It feels very soft. It feels very pleasant. The problem is I don't know if I would use it very often. It is massive, and it feels nice, but I'm not sure when I would use it. If I really had sparse brows, maybe, but I don't have that problem, thank goodness. Like, this is for people who have a good shape to their brows, but they want to fill it in with powder, because what filling powder and filling in brows with powder and a Water Badger brush does is it kind of draws on and mimics a shadow that would be cast by hairs if your brows actually had more hair in them. So then it creates the illusion of fuller brows. So, moving on to the cable brushes. These are cable shaped, but they're in the G series. Why? I am not sure. This one is gloriously loose and fluffy, but pretty much the only place I would use this for is dusting on loose powder. I'm not even sure I would use this for knocking off baking powder, because that stuff gets kind of thick sometimes. And look how much wiggles. This one is probably like you're sitting there and you just want to relax brush, or you just do a very, very, very sheer dusting of powder if you have very dry skin. That's what this 6020 would be used for, or the 6040. They're basically the same. So you can see how much they spread from pretty much my knuckle to my wrist. And then this is the 6040. A little less, but it still pretty much spreads from knuckle to wrist. The difference between these two, surprisingly, is more than $30. Then we get into this little wispy brush. Again, this is going to be more of a sheer setting brush. This is going to be a target brush, though. So certain areas, T-zone, under eye, like if you are combination dry, this would probably be the brush to go with, so you don't over apply powder. For blush, I wouldn't use this one. It's not controllable enough to get blush in exactly the areas where I want it. This would be a blush brush, though. This is the 6051. So you can see here, this would make a good blush brush. Or very softly, softly, softly sculpting out your face. Even smaller yet, so this would be under eye dusting brush. Again, small target brush. Show you the difference between that one and next size up. Here you go. And then these are the sort of more cheek brush sizes. Get from about knuckle to halfway down my hand. Knuckle to about a third of the way down my hand. And then we have the two eye brushes. So this is a lot more firm than the size up in the highlight brush. So this would be for setting your eye base after you've done your foundation and you want to cover the foundation with powder so then your eyeshadow goes on more smoothly. This is what that would be used for. And also in the same way, I would use a doe foot brush to kind of draw on my base shadow for a crease. This one does the same thing as this, except for with more layering. So this one puts down color more sheerly, and then you go over it more and more to really build it up. I prefer this one, the 6080, to the 6090. This one's just, I don't know, I would just get the 5523 instead, the G5523 instead of this one, because it pretty much does the same thing as that one, just not as well. So, but this is just like, I guess, a fun one to have for some people once they've kind of collected all the basic shapes and they're like, ooh, I want something new. Pretty good eye brush, I do have to admit, but there are other eye brushes I would recommend getting before you dive into this one. Then we have these fluffy long things. So this is the 5537, again, for sheer powder, but you're going to get a little bit more of this one, or a little bit more powder laid down with this one. This is the 5538, again, Target powder, and the difference in size is like so. There you go. I personally prefer the smaller one. But the difference between the larger one and the smaller one is only 5. One does have a bit more of a domed tip, and this one has a bit more of a tapered tip. Again, we have a domed tip versus a tapered tip. The domed tip is the 5540. The tapered tip is the 5529. Out of these, the domed one is going to spread more versus the tapered one, it spreads less. Can't really say which one of these I prefer more. Just out of principle, I like the tapered one better. But I would, if I was going to pick a brush for doing highlight or under eye powder, I would pick so many other brushes first. Again, these are kind of the brushes that you collect for fun after you have your basic shapes down. And I think that is the entire G series. So from here on out, I'm going to be pulling brushes from the B series, the J series, and comparing them to the brushes in the G series, as well as answering questions and comments in the chat. Okay. Thank you. I do have a hard stop at 3. It's 2:17 right now, so let's hope I can squeeze everything in. You've read that the Goat and Squirrel blended brushes by Hakuhodo are suitable for cream and liquid. Technically, you can use Squirrel with cream and liquid. I've definitely seen Lisa Eldridge somewhere use her Sukyu Cheek, which is straight Squirrel with a cream cheek product somewhere in some video, so you can. It's just not as recommended. For example, where did I put that brush? One of the round brushes. Nope, that's definitely not it. The 5440, this is dense enough that I think you could definitely get away with blending out liquid and cream foundation with it. However, if you want a soft brush to use for foundation, why not just pick up one of the I series brushes? Like, those brushes are fantastically soft. I would pick up one of those before I pick up a Goat and Squirrel. You can. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. As long as you maintain them properly, they won't break down as quickly as you think they will. But as far as suitable goes, it really depends on the build of the brush. I would say, wait, no, I grabbed the wrong one. The G6431, this is definitely dense enough for blending out cream and liquid products. So you can see the squeeze here versus the squeeze here. Basically, there's no hard and fast rules. There's just general guidelines and recommendations. Finally, someone's showing the G6413 versus the 6423. You've been eyeballing both, and now you can finally see them in comparison. You're welcome. I'm just sad I'm not able to use these floor sample brushes on my face. Otherwise, I'd be going nuts with the foundation brushes. Thank you. Thank you all for watching. Regarding the G5521B, is it softer than or more useful than the, where is the G5521? G5521B. I don't think there's a 5521B. There's the 6540 and the, oh, that is the G5521B. My bad. I just completely stopped reading everything under the number. So is this one more useful or the RC2? This is definitely softer than the RC2, mainly because there's less hair in here and it's more flexible. So it feels less firm than the Hakuhodo RC2. You don't like the latter because it applies blushing? Well, if you wanted a blush brush, a round blush brush, the round blush brush, I would not use the 5521. I would use, not surprised, the 5518 or the 6440. I just prefer the 5518 because it's smaller and I get more control, and I'm a little bit of a control freak. See, oh, and that's all the comments today. Yay! So I was going to pull some from back here. So this is the 103. So this is the 103 in Goat, and this is the 103 in Squirrel Goat. You can see the Squirrel Goat holds its point better. And then this is how much the Goat version spreads versus the Goat Squirrel version. Let's see if I can get them both together. You can see this Goat Squirrel version definitely has more bend to it. There's almost this rounded shape here to the belly of the brush versus no round shape to the belly. So if you like a firmer feeling brush, the 103, and then if you want a very splay brush, the G103. And let's see what else. I'm gonna pull the I6451. Where is it? So this was the brush I was talking about earlier for under eye concealer that I really like using if I can find the G version somewhere someday. That's weird. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. I put it. So this is the I6451 and this is the G6451. So you can see they both have this same shaped head. The difference is this one costs $15 more. This one does pretty much the same thing. Feels about, I would say, 10%, 10-15% less soft. Like this, because it is synthetic, has a little bit more friction and stopping to it than the natural hair does. But if you want this brush only for eyeshadow, I would go for the G. If you want it for eyeshadow as well as doing other things, I would go for the I version. Let's see. This is the 5523 in Goat. This is the J5523. Let me find the G5523. I'm gonna put it somewhere. Aha. Okay. So this is the difference between Squirrel and Goat. You can see, even though they're the same shape, same length, the volume of the 5523 makes it a bigger brush. So if I'm going here and just blending out eyeshadow, this one's going to give me a little bit less control, but it's going to blend out stronger, better, faster. Well, better is up to your interpretation. Because this is Goat, you can use it with 5523. I've seen the 5523 and MAC 217 being used with under eye concealer before, for sure. This is the 5522, and let me find the, nope, that's not that. So the G5522 versus the J5522. This one's actually not as big as mine is, so I think mine might have been a freak. But you can see it's fatter versus this one, it's thinner. Again, that's going to translate once you're on the eyes with more surface area, less surface area, less control, more control. But this one is going to blend out stronger because it is straight goat. And the firmness is, I would say, almost 30% higher. Like you can see it dimples my skin here. It dimples my skin right there. Well, this one I can press all day. It's just going to slide right off before it dimples. And then the G5533 versus the J5533. Again, you've got that volume difference. Once you translate that onto the eyes, there you go. This is probably the most dramatic difference now that I've tried them both out. See? Okay. And then I think I will end this video here. I've got a couple requests to handle and I've got to put all these brushes away. It's already 2:30 and the showroom closes at 3. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful. I'm sorry I can't timestamp it. If someone would like to timestamp the major categories like the foundation brushes, the paddle brushes, the round brushes, that would be great. So I'll see you guys next time. There will be no video next week. Just FYI, so don't keep a lookout for one. And I will see you next time whenever I can. Bye.